WWF Hasbro Series 2 figures came out in 1991. It consisted of 9 figures plus 3 brand new tag teams. But the weird thing is they were based on television from 89 to 90. So a lot of these molds were sculpted when certain characters had certain gimmicks going on, or they weren't even in the company anymore. And I'll address those when we talk about them. So I figured the first one I will show is Hulk Hogan. Now you're probably thinking, well, Hogan came out in Series 1. Well, yeah, he did. But he was very popular at the time. So Hasbro was like, well, let's just put out a new figure with the new action, and people will buy that up too. So this is Hogan Series 2. Kind of a cool figure, I guess, but his action is the Hulkster hug. And yeah, he would just like bear hug you. This action was kind of lame in my opinion, and I think Hasbro thought that also because they never put this action on any other Hasbro. So it was just Hulk Hogan that had this specific action. But I do like the way his shirt looks. Super cool. Great detail, and yeah, that's Hogan from Series 2. The next figure I'll talk about is probably my favorite version of this figure, and that's the Ultimate Warrior Series 2. The Warrior in Series 1 was lacking very severely. I did not like the jumper action that they gave him. This is a humongous upgrade, I think, to the Warrior, and just, he looks great overall. I like the outfit. Even though it's not based on anything, this wasn't an outfit that I remember him wearing back in the day, but I do like the colors, and they gave him the Ultimate Slam, which is awesome because he did the press slam all the time. So I'm glad that they gave him this action. Such a cool looking figure, a huge upgrade from Series 1 Ultimate Warrior. One of my favorites from Series 2. So yeah, Ultimate Warrior. Next figure we'll talk about is probably my favorite figure from this wave, and that is the Honky Tonk Man with his guitar. Awesome blue suede suit outfit. I loved the Honky Tonk Man back in the day, and he had the snake rattle and roll attack. But pretty much he just lift his arms up and he hits you. But this is the authentic guitar that came with him. And like I said, a lot of these accessories are really rare now, and they cost a lot of money to get with the figure. So most of the time the accessories are more than the figure. But Honky Tonk Man, such a cool outfit. He was a great heel back in the day, and he was a great worker. So he's obviously one of my favorite from Series 2, the Honky Tonk Man. Super cool. So the next figure I'll talk about is Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Because you've been doing enough barking for them all. See me, I'm real plain and simple and direct. They call me Hot Rod. Everybody knows it. I don't have to say what I am, because I've done it. That's the difference between you and me. You talk about it, I do it.
I like this figure just the way he looks. Super cool figure. He's got the Piper punch, but one thing I did not like is that they molded the kilt on him. I just feel like he would have been much cooler if he had an accessory, which was his kilt, and you could take it off. If you took it off, I guess he would look kind of boring, but the facial recognition looks really good. It looks like Roddy Piper, I think, and he's got the hot rod on his t-shirt. Pretty cool figure. I'm glad they put him in the line, and yeah, so that's Roddy Piper. The next figure in the line is Superfly Jimmy Snuka.
Ted DiBiase, there is something coming up here, brother, and that's between you and me.
Now, like I said earlier, Snuka wasn't even in the company when his figure came out, and so this figure was pretty much a jumper, obviously. So you would push him down and let him go, and he would fly up in the air. Snuka wasn't even in the company, like I said. So this figure, in my opinion, was kind of boring. You can move his arms, but I don't know. I just think he looks kind of like Frankenstein. And he's got the crazy eyes, which like he did in real life. So I guess he's kind of cool, but I don't really like him too much. I think it's one of the weaker figures from Series 2. Next we got, now he comes with his scepter and his crown, which are very tough to find nowadays. But yeah, and he has Macho King on the back of his shorts. That'll come into play later on, unfortunately. I do like this figure. I love the gold on his knee pads and on his boots, and I love the perfect purple and gold on his sunglasses. Such a cool figure. One of my favorites from Series 2. And his action was the Macho Masher. Kind of just a little punch, basically. Or if you extended his arm, it could be a clothesline. So, pretty cool figure. I do like it. And I love the purple. Looks pretty cool. Macho King. And this is when Randy Savage was, I guess you could say he was heel at this time. So, that's where they got the Macho King gimmick at. Number 7 is Hacksaw, a cool figure, I guess. I love the facial expression on him. If you remember anything about Hacksaw Jim Duggan, this is what he looked like all the time. He would always be like, ho, and he would like stick his thumb up like that. That's why the figure has that. Has the authentic 2x4, an accessory that came with him. Just makes the figure, because I feel like if you don't give him that, he kind of looks boring. He's just a guy in, some underwear wrestling. So I do like this figure, Hacksaw Jim Duggan with the 2x4. And his move was the hack attack. Pretty cool. Now this figure's really cool. It's probably like my third favorite figure from Series 2. And that is the green suit Ted DiBiase with the $1 million belt. Such a cool figure. I loved Ted DiBiase in general when I was a kid. He was such an awesome heel. And I just really liked the way he worked in the ring. He sold his ass off. He made everybody look great. And this green suit is another example of something that he just wasn't wearing at the time. The green suit was from 1989. That was the last time he had worn it. So, I don't know why they put him in that, but I'm glad they did. I think he looks cool. And he has a brand new action that wasn't on any of the Hasbros as of yet, which was the $1 million stomp. So you just raise his foot right here, or you raise his hand and his foot comes up and he just stomps on you. Such a cool figure, but there's little things that I want to talk about. This isn't the exact belt that's in the original Series 1 Ted DiBiase. So if you want an authentic Series 2 belt, you need to get the one that has a couple more belt straps on it, because this figure had a bigger waist than the Series 1. If you're looking for an authentic Series 2 belt, when you put it on, a Series 1 belt will not make it all the way around. This one will, because it comes with 2 extra loops. So you'll be able to put the $1 million championship on him. But I usually just throw it over his shoulder like that, because he's such a badass, and he was always one of my favorite characters on wrestling. So yeah, if you're looking for the Series 2, make sure you get the authentic Series 2 belt. And a lot of these figures like Hogan, Warrior, and Macho Man, and Ted DiBiase, the reason they got alternate figures in Series 2 is because they were super popular at the time in the WWF. So that would be silly for Hasbro not to re-release them with a different outfit or a different action, because they could just sell a ton of them because they were popular characters on wrestling. So I love this figure. Series 2 Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. So cool. And the last figure from Series 2 that I want to talk about is the American Dream Dusty Rhodes. Another weird thing with this figure is Dusty wasn't in the company at the time that this figure was released. He was long gone. They just put him out and they gave him this polka dot gimmick, which really hurt his star power in the WWF at the time. And I think it hurt the sales of his figure, because his figure is by far the most valuable out of the entire Series 2. He's a lot harder to find, especially in good condition. And another thing is his fingers are usually broke off. So if you're looking for a nice, clean Dusty, make sure his fingers aren't broken. It's going to cost you. He's pretty expensive. But like I said, he had the move called the Dust Buster. But my figure, his action is broke, so it's not going to work for me. Another weird tidbit about this figure is that when they molded him and they produced him, for some reason they didn't paint his wrist tape. Now, I don't understand that at all. And that happens a couple times during this Hasbro line, where they just totally omit doing such an iconic thing like his wrist tape, which I don't get. It should be yellow. And it's not just this figure. Every single one of these was like that. It was just like a factory error defect. I do like the figure. I mean, I like the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. He was a working man's man, son of a plumber. You know, he always used to say that, son of a plumber. That's how he would say it. I'm not very good at that, but it's how he sounded. He had that like weird little lisp to him when he would talk on wrestling. But I like the figure, I guess. I do like the boots, even though they look ridiculous. But yeah, that's the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and that's all 9 figures from the Series 2 line. And now I'm going to talk about the tag teams that came out in Series 2. There were 3 of them. 3 tag teams that came out in 1991. And the first ones that came out were the Bushwhackers. Luke and the Bushwhackers, they were kind of just like, they were like baby faces, but they just would get beat, but nobody really cared because of their gimmick. And they would just like march down to the ring and they would just do what they did, and they would lick each other's heads and fight each other. And I don't know, they were just a fun tag team to watch. But yeah, the Bushwhackers were the first ones released, and they had that little action where you just kind of lift his leg up and he stomps, and basically they do their little walk that they would do down to the ring. The Bushwhackers, pretty cool tag team. And one of the coolest tag teams that was released back in 1991. I think every kid liked this team. I know I did. And it was just so cool to see these 2 dudes in the ring because they were doing things that you had not seen before. And of course, I'm talking about Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty of the Rockers. Now, the Rockers were such a cool tag team. They were high flying. And that's the reason, obviously, that Shawn Michaels is a jumper. I don't know. I don't really like this figure. When I was a kid, I loved it because it was Shawn Michaels and he was in the Rockers. But this would be the only time that he would be in this form. Shawn Michaels was in the line later on, but he was in the line as the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. And he turned into the Heartbreak Kid after that infamous barbershop incident where he super kicked Marty Jannetty in the face and then threw him through the window and just glass busted everywhere. Bobby Heenan had one of the most iconic calls in wrestling history. If I can find a clip, I'll play it for you if WWE doesn't take it. Cool tag team. And this Marty Jannetty figure is very unique because he was the only figure to have this action. I can see why, because it's kind of lame, but yeah, the Rockers, the second tag team released for the line. Pretty cool. I enjoyed them as a kid, but as a collector now, I think they're kind of lacking. I do like Marty Jannetty's stance. I like his arms the way they are, like he's ready to fight. But I absolutely hate this Shawn Michaels figure. The one he got later on was way better. So who doesn't remember the Rockers? Such an iconic tag team. It was smart as hell to release them in Series 2 because they were extremely popular. So yeah, the Rockers, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. And the final tag team released in 1991 is one of my favorite tag teams of all time. These dudes were just so cool and so dominating. And they looked just so scary and unbelievable when you were a kid and watching, wrestling. They stood out like a sore thumb because of their awesome gimmick. And I'm definitely talking about Demolition Smash and Demolition Crush. Now, one of the coolest things about this tag team was their face paint. They just stood out and they looked incredible. I mean, does he not look like an awesome figure? And one cool thing about this is the exact same Smash that was released in Series 1 on a single card. But when Demolition in 91 was still wrestling, the original Axe had health issues, so he wasn't wrestling near as much. So what they did was they packaged Crush instead and put him in the tag team. Crush was much younger and he was new on the scene, so he fit in perfectly since Axe's health in real life was going downhill pretty fast. And the cool thing about this tag team, they came with exclusive Demolition helmets. Now, look at these things. I mean, they make this tag team 10 times better. But the crappy thing about this was Hasbro was smart. What they did was when they released this 2-pack, it only came with 2 helmets. So if you happen to have Axe from Series 1, he would just be standing here in Demolition also without a helmet. So you'd have to buy another 2-pack of Series 2 Demolition to get the extra helmet that you needed for Axe. But then again, you just have a random helmet that you couldn't use laying around because there's only 3 people in Demolition. So I just thought that was very smart by Hasbro and genius marketing. They did that a couple times in the line, especially with the WWF ring that came with the championship belt. This is by far the best tag team from Series 2. In my opinion, it might be the best tag team in the entire line. But yeah, dude, so Demolition, one of the coolest tag teams. I mean, just look at this play feature. I mean, he looks so freaking awesome with or without the helmet. I mean, if you don't have the helmet on, you can always hold it, and then you can just see his awesome face paint on Smash. I mean, just so freaking cool. Check that out. I don't know, something about this tag team I always loved. Just one of the coolest ones they ever released. Well, there you go, guys. That's WWF Hasbro's Series 2, the entire line. All 9 original figures and the 3 tag teams that were released. Like I said, this line goes on for quite a while. I didn't collect them all, but Series 3 and Series 4 are some of the coolest figures also, and I'll talk about those at a different time. If you had any of these, let me know. These things were so cool, so playable, and they're just so iconic. Toy from my childhood. So if you guys had any of these, let me know in the comment section below. Just like I say in every video before I end it, we all can't help everybody, but everybody can help somebody. Until next time, guys, peace out.